feel like a huge part of my testimony is understanding where are my roots, what needs to be uprooted, what needs to be replanted. And then I've also had another gal that was on the podcast previously who has an entire book around rooted. And I just am envisioning the imagery that she has on the front cover. Her name is Charlie Page. Just incredible visual of a woman being engulfed by roots and what that means. And you can either have a tree that's bearing fruit or a tree that needs to be consistently pruned in order to one day bear fruit. So talk to me about this new identity, this intrinsic knowing of who you are and who you're rooted in.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with the pruning, because back in 2019, that was essentially my pruning season. So my whole story, I mean, I have a very long story, but I grew up in church. And so I've always been a Christian. I gave my life to Christ when I was 10 years old. That's when I was baptized. And that's how my church worked, is you made the decision to publicly declare Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior. So I did that at 10 years old, grew up in church, did all the right things, but always struggled with the idea of like, what is kingdom purpose? What is the Great Commission? My youth group would go and do all these mission trips, and I always felt less than because I didn't do them, because I never felt like my heart was there. And so I always just felt like I was a less than Christian because I didn't have those wants and those desires to go do mission trips and all of those different things. And so I just kind of like sat back and just didn't really do a whole lot. I said I was a Christian. I did. I love Jesus. But I treated him like my spare tire instead of my steering wheel. And so,
Awesome.
and if I had a big breakup, I knew who I was turning to, but like,
Yeah.
he didn't steer me on Friday nights and Saturday nights, but
That's a great analogy.
but I always felt like I was doing okay, because compared to everybody else around me, I was the good girl. I got straight A's. I was graduated, top 10 in my class from a very large high school. Like, that's just always who I was. I was the good girl who was just the smarty pants who got good grades and never really got in trouble. But looking back now, I can see so many decisions that I made not because they were obedient to Christ. I knew that they went against his commands, but I made them because at least I wasn't doing this. At least I wasn't as bad as that. And so I never really walked in obedience, true, full obedience, for a very long time. And so I ended up getting married. My husband was one of the best things that ever happened to me because he's a godly man. And we got married, and we were poor in like a 1-bedroom apartment. He was still in school. And I decided I needed a better job than my part-time job as a dental assistant. And so I had coached club volleyball for 5 years. And for those full 5 years, those parents always asked me, "Are you going to be a teacher? Are you going to be a coach?" And I said, "No. Not in a million years. They don't make enough money. I'm getting my biology degree. I'm pre-med. I'm going, like, that's how smart I am. Like, I'm going
Yeah,
to
like,
med
why
school,
would I
like."
put this to waste?
Exactly. And I just felt better than a teacher.
Right.
And God has a sense of humor.
Every time.
Every time I ended up becoming a teacher. They needed a chemistry teacher, and I had a chemistry degree as my minor. And then a week later, they needed a volleyball coach. And I remember texting my husband and was like, "I don't know if I want to do this. I know the hours. I don't want to be a coach." And he, over a text message, said, "Valarie, this is like a Valarie shaped hole. Like, who else
could do
coaches?"
chemistry and volleyball?
Exactly. There's not very many of us.
That's awesome. This is a Valarie shaped hole. I'm totally going to use that.
Yes, this is a Valarie shaped hole. Walk through it. He said, the worst that's going to happen is you hate it and you can stop coaching. You can just teach. So did that, ended up being a teacher, and then ended up becoming the head volleyball coach 3 years later. Still did not want to be a teacher, I loved it. I love teaching, love coaching, but I still did not get it that my spiritual gift was teaching and coaching. Just still like it. Now I look back, I'm like, well, it's painfully obvious that I'm a teacher.
You're the only
and
one who didn't know.
Exactly. Everybody else knew but me, because I thought I had better plans.
Sure.
So I taught and coached, mix those words up, for 6 years. And then my heart shifted and God said, you're done. you're done. You paid your dues. This is not my plan for you anymore. And I knew that I was done because I basically was acting like when my son was like 6 weeks old. He was 3, but I was acting like he was a newborn going to daycare. And it just pained me that he was getting raised by somebody else, that he didn't get to see mom and dad very much. So that's when I joined network marketing.